Thank you.
Well, I know, just got talent.
Bob,
See,
the
okay.
column transfer.
Okay, we are live, Mr. Chairman.
You got those closing documents ready yet?
They're ready.
We are live.
All right, we are live. Call to order the counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency meeting on 18 March 2024 at 4 p.m. Roll call, check.
Okay, Nick Camato. Here. Brian Campbell. Dave O'Brien. Jenny Sullivan.
Here.
Tim Robinson.
Here.
Dan Bruno.
Here.
Craig Leggett.
Here.
Trisha Rogers.
Here.
John Taflon.
Here.
Juan Gonzalez.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
All right, in the read ahead package, everybody had both the February regular board meeting minutes as well as the annual meeting minutes. I'd like to open that up for discussion. If anybody has any corrections or any changes,
You ask for motion before you ask for discussion.
I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Dan, Nick is second, and I open it up for discussion. Let the chairman, let him have his fun.
Actually, I did,
Yes.
So I was reading them, Mr. Chairman, it's really a nice blend. Some minutes are very short and just, the action item without any reference to discussion or context for the decision. And then there's other minutes that's just really loaded up with a lot of discussion and all of that. And Alex gets a really good balance.
And credit to Ally on that. She does a nice job with that. Mr. Campbell, welcome. I'll put you down.
Hey, I'm here, thank you. Appreciate that.
Anything else discussion wise? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Treasurer, accounts payable.
Yeah, so you have before you the accounts payable report, that, we had signed checks for today, in some cases dual signatures. Certainly open it up to any questions on payable.
What's the yellow mark on there?
So mine came out in black and white, so what, you'd have to refer me to what you're referring to.
The First National Bank of Omaha.
Apparently, there's no charges.
Apparently.
There were no charges.
There's one right below it.
Yeah.
3902.
So I suspect Ally received the statements and there were some office charges on her card. And then my card did not have any expenses.
But mine doesn't show any charges on either one of them.
Hey,
Second one down.
right below First National Bank of Omaha.
One doesn't say anything.
There was a second round of payable sent out. It was on the second part of the read ahead. That probably was the first one.
It's 32902, right?
That's the one. Yes.
Okay.
With a total of 35,377.14 on the bottom.
That's real.
That's one issue.
I'll move it.
Any other discussion? All right, entertaining motion to accept. Nick, second. Dan, all in favor? Oh, roll call. See, got you.
Okay, roll call. Nick Camato,
Yes.
Brian Campbell,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien,
Okay.
Jenny Sullivan, Tim Robinson, Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Craig Leggett, Trish Rogers, John Teflon, Juan Gonzalez.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to year-to-date financial report, Tim.
Sure, absolutely. You've got the balance sheet and the, with a comparison to 2023, for the same period ending February 29th. So it's going to be the 28th and 23 and 24. But you can see we still have a very strong balance sheet, good cash position, minimal liabilities. The one liability due to other governments is a refund to Hewitt for a lease they had already paid us on. We took it in we realized that they had already paid us, so it's going back out, so that's why it's due to other governments. It's just an internet. But with that, that's the balance sheet. And on the income statement, certainly, total income of 56,000, doesn't quite support our total expenses. There are some, one-time expenses in here, some engineering and, expenses that we will, there are a few that we will get reimbursed on. Project fees. Income, looking down through. Now, now, these are all expenses of our organization. Including special district taxes. Right, but, the idea here is that we need some to generate revenue, through project fees. Rather than rely on our balance sheet, our cash position. So I know that Chuck's been working hard and we've got some ideas and things in the hopper, so hopefully, start bringing in that revenue. The income statement will be right. Right now it's showing $27,000. And again, open it up for any questions. Although my assistant isn't here. And we might have to ask those questions, get back to whoever asked the question.
Dave,
I'd like to point out that the Constable MERC is not included in that income statement. Those were all previous year expenses and they're off reimbursement.
Okay, so that's reimbursement.
So that doesn't reflect it. That's not reflected in the income statement.
Okay.
Craig,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Real usage fees, so any update on when we be having?
Yeah, Chuck can address
Because they
that.
shut down?
Yeah, so Ally will record that when the check is received. We have not yet received the check for January or February. January was 7,000, roughly rounding, and February was 9,000. So we're expecting at least 16,000 in. The check should be arriving soon, and then we'll also have March activity. So that's underreported just because of timing of the check.
And then the property sewer water taxes, AIP, that's the 63% reduction. Is that because of lot sales or is there something reassessed there?
Which haven't got all. I don't think sewer hasn't been built yet.
Yeah, perhaps it's a timing issue.
Sewer hasn't been built yet.
Okay.
Last year this time.
Depends when you get the bill.
Yeah.
The one that's paid.
It's usually on pretty separate.
get you in round two, Dave.
It is,
Anybody else for round one?
you're right, it usually is a set schedule, so if they were paid this time, like, we expect me this year.
Could be close.
Yeah, I can certainly get back to and answer that question for you.
Not a biggie, it's gone in the right direction.
Sure. Sure.
Maybe checks will come in to pay it by the time you get the bill, right?
Anybody else for round one? Dave,
Point out that the real fees that Chuck mentioned, we have to take expenses out of there and then we have to divide it by 2 because we share that with WCC.
Those are actually net. Mine, 7,000 and 9,000.
There's been some great activities.
Yes, we had very, very good activity. There were no activity in December.
Well, even just compared to last year.
Correct.
That's our net number of 16 versus 8.
Correct. Yeah.
The SMS has been lower than last year.
No, but January, February this year, it's higher than last year. According to what I just heard.
So lease income, where's SMS?
Rail usage too.
Well, I was looking for that. How about an outside utility reimbursement? Minus 8,074. What goes on there?
That is with our metering project where we distribute the expenses to the other tenants. And that's reimbursement from the tenants for what we're charged.
Oh,
Great questions. Anybody else? I would entertain a motion to accept the year-to-date financial report. Craig, second? Dan,
All right.
you gonna call it?
Yeah.
Roll call check.
Okay, Nick Amato,
Yes.
Brian Campbell,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien,
Yes.
Jenny Sullivan, Jim Robinson,
Yes.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Craig Leggett, Trisha Rogers, John Teflon, Juan Gonzalez.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Tim, moving on to the 2023 audit, which currently is not ready, but Tim's got a little update for us.
Yeah, we had the draft prepared, we were almost finalized, and then I noticed something in the February profit and loss and balance sheet. Brought up the question, Ally thinks we may have to adjust the audit, so she's gonna discuss it with our auditors, the change that was made. I haven't had a chance to go through the change she's, so I had her do on the interims. I don't think it's in the audit, but it could be that we cannot present it today. I need to get with the audit finance committee and share it with them. Ryan and Jenny, I'll send you the audit. Once we get that piece worked out, leave it in draft, bring it to the board in draft form in April. And then, once the board accepts it, then we would ask them to put it to final.
Yes.
Correct? Is that how you want to handle it, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay.
That does impact our parish reporting. Won't happen at 31 March, but we will be taking care of that shortly after as well.
Right, they're very forgiving. There's no penalties. Some agencies and IDAs have been filed for years. But that's not us. We're on par with our filing. It is due by March 31st, but there's no penalty. You just get notices from the APO that you need to file. So I think first year I was here, we filed it late 2022, 23 was late to begin because the audit.
This is something you're expecting though this next week or so, if we're gonna do it in the April meeting, I take it.
It is.
Okay.
It is. She just has, when she gets back, she'll work with the auditor to see if any of this noise in the interim numbers affects our year end, which I don't believe. We have heard. And then I'll submit it to you too, and the committee can recommend it to the board. There is one item in there that we'll address. I'll address with the two of you, and then we'll bring it up to the board at that time.
Sounds good.
Management letter that there was one item that they brought to our attention. It's not critical. We talked to Kara. We're good. But I'll bring it up. They wouldn't take it out into
All right, sounds good. Anybody have anything for Tim on the audit before we move on?
And that was February of 22. The numbers you were talking about.
February 23.
Thank you.
Yeah. It was, no, I'm sorry, February 24.
Oh, wait a minute, we are 24.
Yeah.
23. Yes.
So I had to change it. There was a negative accounts receivable. There was a negative accounts receivable, which there should not have been. And she needs to address that to the auditor to see if they included it as part of our. But I just haven't had a chance to go back. It happened Friday. And I noticed it. She was out.
Are you planning meeting all over them? How,
No.
it's not sounding like it.
I'm gonna send it to you and have you guys review it and give your thoughts and we can go from there. Okay, does that work for you?
So we can't be bashful.
Nobody ever is in an email, Brian.
All right, last mulligan on the audit. Moving on, ST62 review. Sarah.
Okay, so every year, we are required to submit the New York State Form ST62 to the Department of Tax and Finance. And for fiscal year 2023, what this document says is it asks us questions as to whether or not we issued sales tax exemptions in 2023. And if so, if we issued them with recapture terms and if there were any recapture proceedings. So we've answered those questions as, yes, we've issued, yes, we have recapture terms, and no, we haven't had any recapture for 2023. So the resolution is to approve the ST 64-2 form with those answers and authorize the chairman to sign it and file it with Department of Tax and Finance. That's to be submitted by the end of this month.
Need that as a motion?
Yes,
So moved.
I would entertain a motion to accept. Craig, second. Tim? All in favor? Opposed? Any discussion?
Do we get reports from those we have granted sales tax to, so they can get a copy of what they report?
yeah, those are the ST 340s. I don't know if you've received them all for this year, but I know they're going through them.
Allie's been working on it. I
Yeah.
think she's in pretty good shape, but I can't speak
Okay.
for her.
They're supposed to submit them by, they have to submit them by March 15th, I think. We asked them for a little bit earlier than that, so I know.
Great. Anybody else have anything else on the ST 62? All right, moving on to canal side. Reports of committees, canal side infrastructure project. Dan,
Sure. Thank you. We have the RFP, I believe, is ready to go out. The RFP for the final engineering, construction management for the sanitary sewer and water. I think where we have a schedule of that, rough schedule. Of course, we need the Mass New York grants to proceed with the construction, but the 21st of March, Empire State Development Board meeting, the first board meeting for the Mass New York grant. End of March, early April, the public hearing on that grant. And around April 1st, April Fool's, the release of the RFP for 60 days, and then and in June, we hope to select the engineering firm and proceed. We did have some comments. Juan sent out this email, or actually not you, Jessica Alerts sent this to Juan, and she's also included some of her answers. I don't know if you all saw this, but the reason I bring it up, it looked pretty good, but I take issue with statement number 3. It says, also, Beth and I discussed this last week. We removed the bid sheet that Bob had included in the RFP. Those aren't usually included in RFPs for professional services, since there's some wiggle room in the scope anyway, and they're generally broken out by the engineering categories that make sense in a lump sum format. Well, I disagree with that. They are broken out many times. Depends on the size of the RFP. And she says, we figured it just easier to let the respondents show us how they're breaking things out and what their cost estimates are. Well, we want to be a little more upfront forward with that. Please let me know if you disagree and I can put them back in. That's just my opinion. Those were, Mr. Holmes and I, primarily Mr. Holmes, worked on these and discussed them somewhat at length. And the reason they're in there is because we wanted some itemization. Now, normally, let me back up. On a construction project, you have all kinds of items in there. I agree with a contract for professional services. They're not, you don't get into the depth and detail that you do on the construction side, but they're in there so that if the IDA so chose to take out some of these things, we would have an idea what they are and the approximate value. So it was in there for good reason, but if you want to take it out, that's up to you. I don't know if Mr. Holmes has any input there.
That was the first I'd heard that, so to me, it's the prerogative of the board, but in general, I agree with Dan that any information that we can provide the IDA in making the judgment, based on some costs, I think you may wish to have some breakdown of what the cost for these certain portions of the professional services as part of this RFP. But again, that's the point of the board, or
So-
prerogative of the board, I should say.
I'll get you in 1 second, Craig. Let me just throw perspective real quick. The Regional Planning Board is the executioner, the area of the administrator of the grants, and will be administrating this project. And as you mentioned, it was a phenomenal work, first important to note from Bob and you on that. But when we turn this over to them, they're gonna be the ones executing it. So it was, how do you want to execute it that makes it, makes sense to you as you go through your part of this project? And that was a personal preference, one where they thought it would work. So more so of, as you mentioned, it was a preference, and as will take over this project administrating, that is what was one of the preferences that they preferred. So we'll start with Craig.
Thank you. So, Dan and Bob, on that bid sheet, was it more categorical, like a broad category, or more a line item that you're looking for? Because
Some of it, it's a line item, but they're fairly broad. Again, not as detailed as you would have on a construction side.
Yeah.
But we felt it was a good idea. It's been done before. Just to provide some itemization in the event that you may want to alter this, but again, as Mr. Gonzalez stated, it's Regional Planning Board is going to be administering this. And if that's their desire, then so be it. Don't come back, as I'll say it to you.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
I would expect you to say I told you so.
But no, it's,
Well, I think it comes down to sometimes a request for proposals, you're trying to see what they're proposing and you don't wanna fear them in a certain direction. You wanna see if there's a difference.
well,
Because
yes and no.
Bid or.
In a request for proposal, you know what you're looking for, and you should spell that out.
Well, you know what your end is, but how they get there is their proposal on how they get there. And so I think sometimes you leave it more vague because people can come at something at 3 different angles, or different groups can.
Well, they can do that.
So you get the different angle from each one. If you streamline it, they all have to come from the same angle, and that might not get you the best.
It's probably the engineer in me, but I'm not a proponent of.
Well, I'm guessing that, but I wasn't.
Not
gonna figure it out.
All right,
And it's,
well done. All right, so there's no decision to be made here, no vote, so we'll keep it open for one more round of discussions for anybody before we move forward. Good?
so. That is that. I don't know if you want any other information on the outside regarding, say, the meter fuse replacement and repairs to the.
Yep.
The,
We'll run, that's us, we'll get to the electrical infrastructure work afterwards. Still with the canal side infrastructure project, the other big packet that you did have in there was a professional service agreement with Labella on the flow monitoring. That was approved at the special board meeting. We do have a macro view of the timeline. They were supposed to meet with Washington County Sewer District this week, meter install the week of the 25th, meter removal on 30 June, and then the reports coming in July with discussions with DEC in August and mid-September. That was the NBC grant, the last of that grant. And so this is on autopilot here. If anything changes from the macro schedule, we will re-inform the board.
and this goes to the offset that we talked about all along. 400,000 gallons, so that we can get 100,000 gallons of capacity at the Washington County Sewer District. So this will hopefully facilitate that.
So I just remind the team that overall, what we're trying to do is wastewater to the site and expanded water to the site. That is the overall goal. Everything now, all the details in between is how we're gonna get there. And those are the 2 big packets that you had in your read ahead. I would open it up for any questions on the flow monitoring, should there be any? Before we move on to the next topic. Great. All right, we're moving on to canal site property management, the electrical work. Chuck has 3 items for us.
Okay, a couple of updates. First, as you recall, we had an issue with the switch building roof leaking. It's been repaired and the invoice has been received. As a matter of fact, it was in your accounts payable package for today's meeting. Any question about that work?
What was the repair?
That was the leak.
Right.
They had to caulk up a couple different seams between the flat metal and also the air duct system used, because there's a fan system that circulates air through the building. Next topic, you might recall we have an issue. Can you hear me okay? We have an issue with the tower in the switch yard, which has a meter fuse on it. That meter fuse broke in the fall. There is discussion going on between IDA and National Grid of whose responsibility that is. We have an easement agreement that WCC struck a couple years ago that suggests this responsibility is that of National Grid. So National Grid is digesting this issue. We have Kara involved. We hope to resolve this before the next board meeting. Any questions on the meter fuse situation and the subsequent repair once we understand who's responsible for what? Any questions?
Is it Kara's belief that it's also?
I'll let Kara speak for herself.
That's the position we've taken based on the language in the maps. I've reached out to, their easement person. I don't know what their actual title is. It's not handled by the legal department there. They've acknowledged our request for interpretation and we didn't hear back.
I see a hand back there or no?
And there's a third element here. As you might recall, we talked about doing a maintenance program in the electrical system. We'll be doing RFP. We have not moved forward with that yet because we want to understand who's responsible for what. And that's it, unless there are any questions.
Was there any chance they're responsible for all?
There is no chance they're responsible for all of it.
All right, moving on. Tenant activity, Chuck.
As reported in the past, we've had two local companies looking at certain elements of the Canal Side Park. They have since gone inactive. However, on Friday, we had a new party interested and we provided a tour. It's still very early to talk about who the party is and what their interests are. They're in the process of collecting information and doing their due diligence. Perhaps at the next meeting, we'll have an update. And then finally, we have a current tenant that wishes to expand some space utilization, and we're in the process of speaking with them. It's also too early until we get through discussions with them on their needs. Any questions about tenant activity at Canal Side? Okay,
All right,
thank
moving
you.
on to the airport. Dan, did you have
Is
anything?
that this here, this reimbursement agreement? That's the one for,
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that a little bit later. We're,
okay,
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about it in executive session and then we'll come back and consider, the agreement.
okay,
thank you.
yep.
All right, moving on to the airport industrial park. Want to pull out your maps? Hopefully you have color maps. If not, Chuck will guide you.
So there are 3 pages that were sent. Some came out black and white, some were color. One was the wetland delineation map. The other was a map for Airport Industrial Park 2. That's this color map. And then there was a 3rd page with Airport Industrial Park 1. So that's what we'll be referring to. I think the first one is Column. Is that for Kara? Column, by the way, if I just help you, Kara, on this map, it's the green property.
It is labeled column on the map.
Yes.
And I believe we're still waiting on planning board approval.
All goes well, you'll have that Wednesday evening.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
make no guarantees on planning boards.
Bob is guaranteeing I'm planning it.
But it is in progress.
Yes,
Okay.
we
And
we have been,
No, I mean, I've been in discussion with, the buyer's attorney and they're just kind of waiting on the approval process. We have everything ready to go as soon as, there's no further action the board needs to take. So as soon as we're approved, we'll be able to move forward with that closing.
this is the 3rd step of a 3-stage process to get this.
Good progress, good progress.
Should have been.
Votes by George.
Okay, boards by George, in your map, the 3rd page, it is the orange area that is what we own and what Votes by George is interested in. You'll notice within that area, there's a yellow area. That is land owned by the sewer district. And Both by George is also speaking with the sewer district about acquiring that land, which provides access to the back area, and then acquiring our land for boat storage. More to come on that. It's still in the preliminary phases. Any questions? Mr.
I have a comment on that. I did talk to the sewer district. Apparently Verizon is thinking about putting a tower on that property. And that will give the sewer district recurring revenue. So he said he'd know in 2 or 3 weeks, but it's still up in the air.
These things take time. Craig?
Go after Verizon. The question is wetlands. That was the issue on Boats by George first. That's right.
Right, the sewer district parcel is not impacted by wetlands, but ours is, and they need the sewer district parcel to get to our parcel, to the portions of our parcel where there's not wetlands. So they are interrelated for sure.
Hey.
You don't know the sewer.
Anybody else? All right, moving on to the Hilltop Construction.
So at last month's meeting, we approved a sale to BHB Management LLC, which is owned by the members of the Hilltop Construction Company. This is lot 32. I don't have a colored map, sorry.
It's the blue, they've been colored map.
That's labeled Hilltop right next to it.
At last month's meeting, we approved the sale and a contract. They had requested an amendment to this. They are requesting that the contract be amended to permit the construction of a 40 by 20 foot unheated shed and a gravel driveway. And so the resolution would be to approve that amendment to section 1 of resolution 2 of 2024 and the contract to add that language.
So I would entertain a motion to accept that resolution. Dave, second. Tim. Any discussion?
And this is consistent with the covenants of the deed.
They still have to come back to the board regarding their plans and their Kingsbury approvals. So this will be revisited, but the contract has those contingencies in it, so
So it doesn't change the price or anything. So
no. The original approval indicated that they were just gonna use it for outdoor storage exclusively. And now they've added the construction of the outdoors, the shed.
Should be.
Which would be helpful on our part.
I'm sorry.
It's helpful on our part for the consistency and things, because just outdoor storage is one of those not allowed.
Right, that requires a variance and they're aware of that to come back for. Yeah.
Make a roll call.
Okay, Nick Amato. The roll call for the vote on
yes.
Hilltop. Yes. Brian Campbell,
yes,
Dave O'Brien, Jenny Sullivan, Tim Robinson, Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Craig Leggett, Tricia Rogers, John Teflon, Juan Gonzalez.
Yes,
Thank you.
great. Other interest, Chuck.
The only other interest is back on the second map where we're just looking at Hilltop. You'll notice there's a purple area. I call it the area that is north of Ferguson Road. We do have a party that's interested in that land. They've asked for application and they are doing their due diligence. Can't talk about the party at this time, but there is a serious intent to purchase those 4 lots.
No, is that adjoining the Coulomb transfer?
Yeah. Well, it will be, so the Coulomb is green.
Yeah, don't talk colors about it.
Okay, Mr. Engineer.
Yeah.
So it is adjacent to the Coulomb.
This.
Correct.
Okay. A note on that, as part of the Coulomb transfer, we're breaking off the paper road so the large bulk portion of land can go to Coulomb. What we will have to do, what the IDA will have to do when it comes time for the development of the paper road is wherever that paper road terminates, the town of Kingsbury will be asking for a turnaround or a hammerhead or something along those lines. So before that whole batch gets, that whole section of lots gets divested, I'm gonna say we need to take a closer look at that to make sure there's sufficient right of way for basically town trucks to turn around.
Yes, and perhaps for further discussion, but we also have a party that's interested, and I'm about to talk about the southern part of Ferguson. So conceivably, they could both have their entrances and we won't need the road.
If you, I
So-
mean, if
so-
you divest everything, then it's not a problem.
Right,
Town-
and that's a win-win because then no one has to construct a road. But we can't get there until both parties actually get more serious about purchasing. So it's
Point
duly
being,
noted.
point being is if the town was to take ownership of the paper road or a portion thereof, the paper road, a turnaround right away will have to be facilitated.
Okay,
What about where it's gonna end somewhere anyway? You'll need to turn around.
There's a turnaround there.
There's currently on the backside of Equistock, there is a right of way turnaround right now.
Yeah.
It's once we start going beyond that point where we start getting into what, I guess it's lots 16, 17, 18, this up around in this.
Do they own that?
Okay.
so
The IDA owns all that.
Dave first.
My opinion, we should consider transferring that piece of property to whichever side wants it. We don't want to go through the expense of developing that, putting infrastructure in there, putting the road in there. That could be $20,000 a mile, at least. Oh, it's gotta be more. It's gotta be 50 or 60,000.
For water and sewer?
Yeah.
Oh, you're a mile? Absolutely.
So if we,
Well more than
we do that, my advice would be to make sure we would transfer that to someone to so we don't have to get good expense, because we're getting 12,000 for potentially one side. No, I don't really know what it was, but it would not even begin to cover the expense of putting infrastructure.
right, and it's their expense too, so it's an interest of all parties involved, not to build a road that's not necessary.
Greg.
On the Cullen property, did they retain access through the Ferguson?
They do not.
Just to explain that. This white property, that's a big inverted L, that belongs to Mr. Colon. His family owns the rest of it, so they have access through there. And he is not going to develop that property.
his wish is to join it with the rest of his parcels.
John, did you have something? I see your knife hand go up and catches my attention. All right. Anybody else?
Just one last, the Dave's point. Just bear in mind, if you end up divesting parcels to two different entities, say north and south, you still gotta have some kind of common access way to those parcels. I would believe a joint ownership of the parcel could occur, so it would remain private. But if that's not gonna be the case, there's still gonna be some push for municipal right-of-way access beyond that. So just caution on how the property gets divided up, that's all.
The input is appreciated. Okay, good.
It can't just be a right of way. Use.
The if you have two parties that wish to share a private right of way, I believe that can be facilitated.
Okay.
The part that I don't know is how that may be received on the part of the town of Kingsbury, because there is minimum lot frontage requirements for each of these lots. Right now, with the paper road, each of these lots has a compliant road frontage. If that's divested and done up separately, yeah, I don't know that we start talking a little bit more legal side of things. Conceivably, it would be a variance, and I don't know how that would be received.
Or does it become one lot? Because there's 3 or 4 lots in each of these.
Yeah.
It would what become one lot?
So, well, he said there's a certain amount of road frontage per lot.
Oh.
But if that's one lot, there's a whole lot of road frontage per lot. I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be up to the planning board to review and decide how they wanted us to handle, if they wanted us to merge it first and then,
Right.
or. I mean, I think it's a point to address, it would be up to the planning board, I think.
Anybody else?
Well, I lost here with black and whites. Go down Ferguson Lane, past the plant where they're doing all the fire all the time. At the end of that, that's where they bring their trucks. And if you want to get out of there, you could use that to turn around. Who owns that?
Well, the end there where you turn around is Ferguson. That's owned by Kingsbury right now. Okay,
Now,
the town, correct. But for EcoStock, they have their own parking lot and pulling area where their trucks are turning around and coming back out.
okay, or wherever they want to go.
Where the log storage is at Equistock
Yeah.
currently.
Yeah.
The last driveway would be as you're driving in, the last driveway on the right.
Yeah.
To the opposite of that last driveway on the left-hand side is a little
Yeah.
bump out in the parcel or property lines. That little bump out or hammerhead's been deeded as part of the Ferguson Lane property, the Ferguson Lane property.
Anyone else? All right, moving on to, one merger update.
Merger, of the lots has been completed. So we've got the file documents here. So that should be, all set for this next tax roll.
So the two merger A and B you see on your maps is what we're talking about. Good.
Tax roll just ended on March first.
Towards the end.
They were filed before March first. So, yep.
All right. Any last thoughts on the airport industrial park, Craig, or Dave, sorry?
Great, go ahead.
Go ahead, Craig.
So I do want to bring up that, there's a second phase to this. If we look at the delineation, one thing we need to handle, and we should talk to Kara about this, and the strategy is that the properties that we got as deed prohibitive are still rated as commercial lots and assessed as commercial lots. We cannot do any of those lots, so we need to figure out how we're gonna strategize in converting those into a lower level. Because while we're not paying property taxes, we do pay special district taxes. And if we're paying on properties we cannot have forever, cannot divest forever, we need to get it down because then they're paying property tax, our sewer and water and fire district and perpetuity. And while I don't mind doing it, we should be paying the realistic value of the property, which is actually zero, since nobody do anything with it. We'll have a good debate about that. I'm not sure whether we want to take the tack of using grievance state or whatever we want to do. So I just want to put that in discussion.
Craig,
And they be assessed as park and their value be distributed through the other owners thereabouts in the industrial park. If we can't sell them, they have no commercial value, then why would we still own them? And we just transfer ownership on 16 equal parts or ever, how many lots are there?
Seems
I
like
understand what you're saying.
It was a
Ah,
homeowners
that's something put on their business. side.
Oh, I
I
think.
see
so.
that. Interesting.
It was
I'm
common.
gonna write that one down.
It's an interesting idea, but you're putting a burden on businesses that already exist, and I don't know if that's a good.
We don't share those costs with them already. Why would we all of a sudden, when they own the properties for decades? Loving them.
I don't think it's quite fair to them.
Continue looking at that topic. Anybody else? Alrighty, moving on to new business, native development extension resolution.
What's ongoing business? You skipping that?
Anybody got any ongoing business? We are skipping that unless somebody has something.
Okay.
Alright,
So for native development, there's a resolution in the package that authorizes the extension of the sales tax exemption through the end of 2024. It was originally intended to expire the end of this month. So this will give them through the end of 2024 to complete their project.
Is this the one with Star's resolution taking action?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I would entertain a motion. Tim? Second? Nick? Just a roll call.
Roll.
And there's no change on the sales tax exemption.
No change on the amount of the sales tax or the total project cost.
Roll call. Chuck?
Okay, roll call. Nick Camano,
Yes.
Brian Campbell,
Yes.
right, Dave O'Brien.
Yeah.
Jenny Sullivan, Tim Robinson.
Yeah.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Craig Leggett.
Yeah.
Fisher Rogers. John Teflon.
Yeah.
Juan Gonzalez.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, the RFP review, we've already completed. We can skip that one. And the possible application for review is no longer possible. We're gonna skip that one for now. And then the OBECS Holdings application to purchase. Chuck?
Okay, Obex Holding, a company listed in Delaware, but a Canadian-owned subsidiary. This is a company called Rybec, based out of Quebec. They specialize in the production of premium wood shavings for livestock bedding. They are interested in 4 lots at Airport Industrial Park 2. Back to our diagram here, it's the fuchsia and it's labeled OPEC Holdings. They are interested in a total of 10.72 acres, of which 1.82 are subject to wetland restrictions, so leaving 8.9 acres available. Negotiated purchase price stands at $12,500 per undeveloped acre, totaling $111,250 for the 10.7 acre lot of lots. This valuation reflects 11% increase over the market value estimate at $11,265 per usable undeveloped acre, as determined by Edward Gallagher in April 2021 appraisal. The company wishes to invest over $4 million to put a chip manufacturing facility in place. It'd be at least 11 permanent jobs, also be some part-time jobs, and obviously there'd be some construction jobs.
Where are you on that map?
Right next to the.
This map right here,
Backs up to Equistock.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
right there.
Yep.
We've been in discussions with the company for a couple of weeks, and we received the application to purchase last week. The application is in your meeting package. We have not yet started processing or negotiations. We really just wanted to make the board aware that the negotiations will start with the purchase of this land. As you might recall, though, this is a situation where, well, you of course understand the planning board, Kingsbury will need to be involved. And if this company decides to do an investment incentive application, Kingsbury will be involved in the approval process of that application too.
Is there a relationship between them and Equistock or where?
They do have a working relationship where this company does buy some product from Equistock, but not other than the buying of one certain product. That's it.
You're not gonna be merging or anything.
That's what I mean. Are they gonna work together there? So,
We
does that
have
a bearing
no
on
knowledge
there?
of anything such as a merger. So that has not been brought up to our attention.
Craig first.
What type of wood are they using? They're gonna be bringing in whole lot?
Don't know. I do know they'll bring in logs, but I don't know the type of wood they'll be bringing in.
Dave?
Quick order. Queensbury is not on the appellate.
Kingsbury. Sorry. Yep, Kingsbury.
Anybody else? Jenny? Oh, no, I'm sorry. See, I see knife hands go up.
I
Let's stick in.
anticipate at the next meeting, Karen and I and others will have an update. Again, this is just an update to let you know that this is good news and we're gonna see where it goes.
One road to hoe.
It would make sense that maybe they're working together too.
What did you say that they're looking 44 million or something? You said
4.4 million
4.4.
is their estimate.
Well, my point is, that's a big deal.
That's a mess.
I think that there's something with their neighbor next door.
Right, and that's their business, so we'll let them talk with the neighbor next door. What's that?
Dave?
That's between them.
I thought they said there was no relationship between the companies, they should work together. Basically.
Yes, they do know of each other, and I did ask the point person, is there a working relationship? He said we buy product from them, and that was that. He said that the product that they'll be manufacturing is a different product line. So that's what we know so far.
So the question is, this is where we had the noise ordinance and all
Yeah.
that problem?
Yeah.
So are we gonna have another problem?
That's right.
Well, that will be for the planning board to work on. That's obviously
Well,
not,
and that's why I said that the relationship between the two may be important to the planning board more than it is to us, and that's.
the good news is the pre-existing business, it's the Equistock is there, so you just want to do the same thing next door. But that will be an issue that the planning board will need to take
If
up.
they're both running at the same time, it could be a very big issue.
Dave,
We had some
To
problems.
Brian's point, we had a hell of a problem with Royal, it used to be Royal.
Royalwood.
Royal Shavings.
Okay.
We had a hell of a problem with them, it went on for years, with Kingsbury and Emerald, finally got to the point where they completed it. We don't know if manufacturing process has changed, but it will be an issue in Kingsbury. Promise you that, because there are neighbors around there that were affected and they were continually affected, and I don't know if anyone else is on the board when Nick and I were here, I can't see anyone else in there, but it was ongoing for years.
So I'll just,
Every day.
I'll just point out that the lead with OBEX, I spoke to him about the planning board process and he was keenly aware of the nature of their operation. He set up in Quebec, they have a very good relationship with their neighbors and they work hard at that relationship. So that will obviously come out during the planning board process and be,
Also, technology's come along. So we have to give them every benefit of the doubt.
We do, but they just need to be aware what the past problem was, so they don't present it in a way where they're shut off before they get started, I guess.
Right.
But again, this is a town and a planning board issue, not an IDA issue.
good. All right, great discussion, everyone.
Their job to sell property, it's planning board's process in Kingsbury to figure out if they meet their specifications.
Everybody driving over there every week.
All righty, let's look at the next generation, social media intern.
okay. So in the effort to increase awareness about what we do and what we accomplish, I'd like to propose that we have a social media intern. Good news, it'd be at no expense because the county can finance this position. It's a workplace opportunity. They're very eager to place people and we have an opportunity and the county are willing to pay for the person. Not a lot of hours. We're talking 3 to 5 hours, maybe 6 hours a week, maybe initially 10 hours. But if you think about LinkedIn and those who look at LinkedIn, there's a lot of promotion with the ARC talking about activities. So we need to increase awareness of what we do. And then when we have success, we talk about the success. So, yeah, and I don't pretend to be a social media expert, so we'll bring someone in, we can work together, it'll be a win-win relationship.
Employee of who?
It would be an employee of the county, okay?
Washington.
Well, we actually depend, we will advertise, in the package you saw the advertisements. We'll interview people from both counties, whoever gets the job, each county has its own program. So it will depend on where the person resides as to whom they'll be employed by.
What's that?
It's through the LEAP,
Right.
yeah, Workforce Development in Warren County, and it's through LEAP in Washington County.
Good,
Okay,
all right,
thank you.
exciting.
LEAP stands for.
Oh.
Good.
Jump really high. I used to-
Kara's gonna work on that while we discuss the.
I'm sorry, I have to
Rhonda
Google that one.
Funding advocacy letter, you'll see it in. All right, Brian, we'll see it at the EDC letterhead. This is a great one. What we wanted to do is just inform the board on things that, the economic development team continues to discuss. A lot of, things going around and they're teaming up together for advocacy. And this is just one of the letters. In the future, Chuck will send these directly to the board. But we wanted a first one at the board meeting to let you know what's going on. You'll see some familiar names on the second page of that letter. And it's good work and they're always communicating and it's a lot of, I'll let you jump in for 2 minutes.
Well, the advocacy is so important in this region and SUNY Adirondack, of course, is so instrumental with everything that we do. And as Juan has pointed out, there's other efforts underway, particularly within housing. So I think you'll see more like this in other important issues within our region.
All right. Any input on that? Great. Moving on, we wanted to open a discussion on, we have a set board meeting consistently 4 PM, which has been proven to work for everybody. On occasion, there is potentially a request to consider moving that if at possible, and then we just wanted, as each year, 1 or 2 board members come off and come and go, and wanted to get the flavor of the board on the consistency of that board meeting. Is it impossible for folks to make 3:00, 3:30? Not that this is something we're gonna consistently do, but I just wanted to get the flavor of the board before we consider this. Start with Dave.
We set our board meetings at 4:00, which has been very successful over the years. We set them at the first of the year. Special meetings don't come into consideration here. We set at 4:00. People expect us to have our board meetings as advertised at 4:00 on the nights we have them. I don't think that, given the ability for people to understand that, and people do look at that, and people do plan on coming, YouTube or whatever, I think under open meetings, we should consistently keep it the same. I don't see varying that. I understand the circumstances. Circumstances, a personal request because of their personal commitment. To me, that's not a sufficient reason to just potentially inconvenience people who expect at 4:00 every single month.
I
Appreciate your input, go ahead.
have to say, I won't be at the April meeting anyway, whether it's 3, 4, or 1. But I think he's right. I think that it's been so long now, the 4:00, that people who have any business with us, they don't bother, they know it's at 4:00. So think about that.
Yeah. No, we will. Yeah,
I agree with Mr. O'Brien. Unless it's some extenuating circumstance.
what do you consider extenuating circumstance?
Some emergency where we had to get something done by a deadline that wouldn't meet with the current schedule.
We have those kind of meetings all the time.
Okay.
A special meeting, if you will.
Quick, anybody else, round one? Craig?
4:00 works best for me, especially when it's over in Washington County, being a civilian these days. Got things going on.
Can't find it.
Brian?
I'm just glad now that Dave stepped down, we all agree with him. We sure as hell didn't.
Great.
But other than that, I think the 4:00 works good because of the 2 places we're meeting, Warren and Washington County. There could be things still going on at 3:30. 4:00 is, everything's pretty much one, so it does fit the best. But in unforeseen circumstances, if we have to go a little bit early, I think that's gonna be a problem.
I do agree. I know that I've had to, once it's on my board, I've had to shift some things because things have come up, so I'm willing to be flexible.
Anybody else, round one? Dave?
I'll say I've been on this board for 12 years now. We never varied except for a snow emergency. Actually, we didn't need snow emergency. We still had.
We should have.
people come.
We should have.
I used to be young, it was a 4:00.
Absolutely, Kara?
Just while you're considering this, we have to make sure that we meet all the notice requirements. So if we're gonna change it, really can't do so at the last minute. It has to be in advance, typically at a time that the public is available to attend.
I hope we can leave it at 4:00.
No vote. It was just a discussion, trying to get the flavor of the board.
Well,
Like I said-
put something on the table, now you gotta make a vote.
Now I will entertain a motion for the next vote of leaving it at 4:00. Dave, second. Craig. All in favor? Opposed? All right, well done. All right, staff reports. Craig. Or Chuck,
Nope.
sorry.
My turn, okay. Okay, on the staff report, I have 3 things. I will start by just talking with various activities, and I'll go into the engagements that have occurred with potential investment opportunities, and I'll talk about the prospects pipeline. So since the last board meeting on February 19th, there's been about 8 different other activities. Back on the 22nd of February, I attended the Greenwich Chamber Coffee at Auction Barn Restaurant in Argyle. One of the main talking points was about SSE and their Greenwich site. And I pointed out that we, the IDA, could be involved with whoever buys the site to offer some investment incentives for manufacturing operation. And that was, of course, well received. Also on the 22nd, attended Lake George Chamber Mixer at Cooper's Cave. Then on February 28th, attended the Warren County EDC meeting with area developers discussing housing strategy. And of course, promoted the opportunity IDA incentives could help with this very important issue. Then on the 29th, attended the ARCC luncheon with legislators, which was very well received. Actually, at that meeting, I was able to facilitate a meeting with a possible incentive project and one possible bond project. Then on March 5th, had lunch with John Jablowski, SUNY Adirondack VP Academic Affairs, and a new hire, Tim Surprise, who is the new employer engagement manager. And we quickly realized that we can work together because we're both engaging businesses, myself on the investment opportunities and himself with SUNY Adirondack trying to get closer to business needs. So that I envision will be a very good working relationship. Then back on the 8th of March was the Jucket Award Dinner, which is always a huge hit. And then on the 13th, I went to the SEDC office ribbon cutting ceremony in Saratoga Springs. Greg Connors, Todd Shimkus, and Steve Bolger was there, and they're all very, of course, pro IDA folks. And then finally on the 15th, or this past Friday, as I explained, did a tour with a prospective company to look for canal side. As far as engagements, since the beginning of this year, when I say engagements, that's engaging a company or an entity talking about investing in our area. There's been 32 engagements. There have been 8 manufacturing distribution, 1 food and beverage, 3 hotel and resort, 8 tourism and recreation, 6 housing, 1 energy, and 5 in other industries. Of the 32, possibly 6 applications might occur in 2024, possibly 4 in 2025. There are 12 that are just simply unknown at this time. And of the 32, 10 will not be submitting an incentive application. Any question about those engagements?
Yeah, city, did they change their mind on whether they would sell them as is to other paper companies? Because originally they weren't on board with doing that, right?
Yeah, they have hired a broker, and that broker is about to list the property in Greenwich. And I'm in contact with the broker to make sure the broker is aware of our program. So they're about to list the property.
What are they gonna, is the paper equipment going separate?
Yes, they're gonna clean everything out. They're actually in the process. They wound down the operation, and now they're cleaning out the facility.
Shouldn't that information, I don't know how we do this, maybe after every meeting, every monthly meeting, shouldn't that information be in the press? What we're doing?
I think once someone decides to submit an application, then it becomes a big deal. Right now, a lot of the people I speak to say, like to hear what you have and thanks, but no thanks. So I think it depends.
Well, if they say thanks or no thanks, but if some of what you said were
You mean
good.
the overview?
Huh?
You mean the overview?
Yeah,
The overview.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I honestly, we certainly could combine this with the social media intern to say, hey,
Which brings me to my
these
second question. Why do we have to go outside and teach somebody else who we are when we have a bunch of people here who could do that?
well, I don't myself pretend to be an expert in social media, and the younger people this day and age are pretty savvy.
I got a
So,
pretty good salary for doing that for a long time, but go ahead.
well, and so the win-win here is being able to impart the knowledge about economic development to a summer intern, and that summer intern be able to take that information and put it in social media. And so that's promotion of what we do. And then when we have successful projects, we'll talk about those projects.
Is there a way to incorporate that with Mr. Lehman and what he does here in Warren County? The summary part? Is to get that out?
Perhaps we can certainly explore the opportunity.
Yeah, well, because we're a joint, I'm not sure that wouldn't be a bad. To do it, that's what I was gonna say, I don't think that would be a bad thing. Let more people know what's actually.
And I think
going
that's what they're trying to hire for, that person to get.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chamber, Washington County to get that all out,
Okay.
and it'll be like that focus person to get it to all the
I
outlets.
knew you
that
were,
will-
Yeah, and to Trish's point, we have goals and we'll hopefully hire this person and work together. And and perhaps we could talk, because your organization does a very good job in that
Yeah,
way.
that would be absolutely beneficial.
Yeah.
Put it on Monday morning.
Yes. Yep.
And I
Right.
think what's real important that I don't know that we all got out of what you just said. When you grab the younger generation, you pick a different generation of future development too. That
Correct.
things are different than how they used to be
Absolutely.
done. And I think that's really more important than we all understand today.
Well,
Sadly, most of us started with a typewriter abacus, so we need that next.
Yeah.
well, Patricia puts out,
Who?
every. Previous.
Patricia?
No.
It wasn't that.
I said, well, you put out
All
something
right.
every Monday morning,
Yep.
and it could be in there.
Absolutely.
Good. Anybody else? Anybody else got anything for Chuck?
Okay, I have one more thing on the pipeline list.
Hit it.
Okay, on our pipeline list, we have, and I'm starting to I've in the past talked about these in different ways. I'm going to try to standardize a little bit. So as far as advancing an application, we have 5 companies that are looking to advance an application. As far as developing a project for possible application, we have 13. As far as exploring the project and an application, we have another 8. And then as far as projects that have decided not to move forward with an application within the past year, we have 11. So that's a total of, okay, so again, 5 advanced, 13 developing, 8 exploring, and 11 have decided not to move forward. As far as by industry, of the 26 that are in the first 3 categories, 1 is manufacturing, 5 are hotel and resort, 3 are tourism and recreation, 6 are housing, 3 is other, and we now have 2 potential bonds that's included with that count. And as you know, with this pipeline list, it goes hot, cold, but we're working it every day. Any questions about the prospects?
All righty. On future, board meetings and the staff reports, Ally and I've been chatting. She'll have a section where she'll be debriefing what she's doing with the board as well, so expect that on upcoming board meetings. Good. All right, moving to, we're gonna have Kara take us to Dave.
Before we go, I'd like to remind everyone and I want Ally to hear this when she does in minutes, is that Ally's anniversary is today. This is her 5th year with the IDA. She came here with a good attitude. She has developed nicely over the years and done a great job. And she's extremely reliable. And everyone, please join me and thank you, Ally, for all you've done. We hope to see you for 100 more years.
Amen.
Thank you.
Everybody signed this?
Seeing that, yeah?
And we're,
The longest of the job.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Who was?
Oh.
Does everyone sign the card for Ally?
good, yep. So we're not done yet. We have a late breaking item that Kara's gonna take us into executive session for.
Before you hang up, I want to thank the CEO for doing Ally's job. He did a wonderful job. I hope next time you put the index on, it's 95 pages.
Okay,
And
duly noted.
and we may be taking action, so we will be coming back out of executive session.
You had to call on the old pro to finish it up.
I do.
And you did a great job. Thank you.
Who
Okay.
screwed up on the stapling?
There's,
Okay, wait, I'm still recording, but go ahead.
yeah, there's a discussion, for, executive session regarding property in the Canal Side Industrial Park that affects
I'll second it.
Okay,
All in favor?
so bear with